So we're going to talk about this. If you didn't have this orange spot on your seat, don't worry. As Sorin said, first of all, I will ask a couple of key questions. And second, you can test Amazon. So, Sorin, as an introduction about your book, and maybe also please about this whole morning, because you were here, you were always with us, and thank you for your insightful comments and questions. Maybe to start with about this marketing effectiveness, which you define. I put I think, sorry, this is it. You define a process for measuring the success of marketing activities based on the desired business outcomes. A complex concept that touches on all aspects of brand building. Wow.
Complicated. Yeah.
So you write that it's often confused with advertising effectiveness. So maybe you can help us, differentiate media effectiveness, which lots of us are often talking about, and marketing effectiveness, which is the title of your book.
So just to make sense of this quote, I would say, I really believe that as marketeers, we need to have a voice that's louder in the boardroom. And we can only have a louder voice if we speak the language of the boardroom, if we speak the language of the CEOs and CFOs. And their language is not necessarily related to retail media, ROAS, and anything that is executional, I would say. Their language is about business impact, revenue generated, profit, and so on. So my attempt with this book is to elevate a conversation that's happening very much in at events, on LinkedIn, on various kind of industry get-togethers, where we love to talk about media, and we love to talk about creative as well. But in fact, we should talk about the totality of the marketing activities. What Kotler used to call the 4 Ps, we tend to forget them and go all the way straight to communication, because in large organizations, that's the only thing that's left for us to do. Pricing is now part of the finance team. R&D is developing the new product. Strategy is sometimes coming straight from the CEO. And the only place where we can really add value is communication. But that's not everything. And I'm sure, I believe a lot of people in the room have run market mix models and know what's the percentage of sales that could be easily attributed to media. Anyone can have a guess? Ramla is not allowed to talk. It's 10%. It's 10%. So we're actually trying to optimize 10% of the total impact that you can have on your brand. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy to change repertoire and all the other elements. It comes with a larger investment, of course, but I'm just trying to raise a little bit the lens to ensure that we really talk about all the conversations that we need to have when we talk about marketing.
So basically what you're saying is we've been talking for 3 hours about something that is completely unuseful?
Not necessarily, because luckily what we're talking about is the only lever that you can pull that has a long-term impact on the brand. We've done lots of research with my old company around understanding the short-term impact, but also the long-term impact, like 3+ years. And media has come up consistently as the only lever that has both the short-term and the long-term impact. So yes, promotions can give you like something in the short term, but media is the only one that will build your brand. So it's a small but very, very energizing part.
Thank you, Sorin. I like that. Maybe you want to share a bit about the slides you brought?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, when we're talking about, we also tend to put media and creative in the same cap, and I'm trying to separate them here. And this is an extract from the book in which I'm trying to explain what's the path from the screen to the mind of the consumer, and what kind of elements can you play in order to optimize that path. And if you want to talk to a guru that can really talk about this path extremely well, Laurie Sommer here in the audience, she was part of my team at Mars, and she's leading now Mars effectiveness on creative excellence, and she can really talk for hours about this. But what we built together was an amazing solution that was around optimizing for attention, finding out what's the right level of emotions, and ensuring that the memory is encoded in a simple way. And if those three wheels work in sync, then you can build a brand into the mind of the consumers. And if you test that continuously on your creative messages, you will get better.
Yeah, so thank you, because what I loved about your book really is that it's like taking a step back, and we really realize that, you know, whatever we're working on, we're all extremely focused, and sometimes we kind of forget the big things we learned a few years ago about marketing, and however, you know, focused we are, we should never forget the rest of the picture, which as you said is so critical.
And it also feels that if you open LinkedIn or if you go to any conference, it feels like we have all the answers. It feels like there's information and insights across every single lever that you can pull. I think what's sometimes missing, and especially in large organizations, is how to translate that insights into a decision, how to move people behind the cause in the organization. I think it's easy to measure incrementality of retail media. It's much harder to convince the CFO that based on that you need to move money from that player to another player. And
I wouldn't say the first one is easy, but I agree the second one
I'm
is
expecting you
even harder.
to solve that.
Yeah, thank you. Working on it, definitely. No, but yeah, I completely agree with you on this. You had another thing, I think, here.
Yeah, this is my view that I think we are a little bit biased when we talk about marketing effectiveness by the thought leaders or the influencers that we find in our feed. And usually those influencers are either academics or more probably they are companies, research companies that are selling you a creative measurement solution. So System One, Kantar, Ipsos, they're everywhere and they're trying to sell you a better way to measure creative, while in fact they should try to sell you a better way to measure the total marketing effectiveness, which is much more than creative, and that's what I'm trying to visualize here.
To be honest, and I hope you got that feeling because it's your first Data Collab Summit, Sorin, we really try here to foster innovative ideas. We know what we don't know, and I think we're very fine with not putting too much emphasis on technologies, because I agree with you. Very often the tech vendors, there's also a good reason why conferences talk about so much about tech, because they have the money, they organize the conference. That's why, just to mention here, you have no sponsor. And it's free for the audience, but it's invitation only. So
yeah, and I think the perspective of a brand was very present throughout the day. I mean, I love the first session was, I mean, someone was drooling over me in front row. I don't know if you remember, but it's true that we want the kind of things that L'Oreal built. I mean, I think if we're honest to ourselves, every brand in CPG would want to be like L'Oreal. And to see it so clearly visualized there, it's fantastic. And I think you've helped them build that, so well done.
We'll help you, Sorin, if you insist. Okay, zooming
at a good price.
Zooming in a little bit and talking about media effectiveness, you have another quote in your book, which we love, to be honest, at number 8. It says, all KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are KPIs. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on this and with your experience at Mars and Pepsi?
Sure. So the difference between KPI and metrics is very clear to me. A KPI is anything that you measure that has a direct impact on your business outcome. So think of, if you're a publicly listed company, you would put a KPI in your annual report. You would not put a metric in your annual report necessarily. A metric is a proxy, is an input data that helps you optimize whatever tactic you're having there. think of it as engagement, likes, comments, and so on. But the number of comments do not correlate with your business outcome. So I was I was very lucky at Mars to build together with the team there and with the CMOs there a culture of effectiveness that was focused on business outcomes. The only way we measure creative excellence, media excellence, pricing excellence was through the lens of incremental sales. The idea of penetration as the main driver of growth was very much ingrained in the organization. So everything that we tried to do was to increase penetration. And I was very, very pleased to see when I joined PepsiCo 5 months ago that the thinking is exactly the same. So I think the Byron Sharp kind of like aura has been very well casted across multiple organizations. So yeah, I think there's a role for metrics. There's a role for metrics in optimization of smaller scale tactics, but if you're only focusing on metrics, you're losing the conversation to the boardroom.
Super. Talking about data, Sorin, you heard that a lot. I know you think we talk a little bit too much about it, maybe, but I like what you said in the book, which is use data to strengthen your expertise, but not to replace it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a clear fight in. I mean, I was part of the consumer insights organizations to be very clear at Mars, and most of the research we've done was to learn. However, there was also some research done to basically prove a senior leader right. And I think that's where I came up with this kind of framework around marketing effectiveness, that it needs to be ABC, it has to be actionable. In other sense, you should not do any kind of measurement if you're not going to make a change or make a decision based on that measurement. It should be behavioral, because we know that when we do surveys, we tend to want to finish that survey and don't really care about what we answer. By the way, a show of hands, who actually in the room answered a brand survey in the last month? Okay, so pretty like 33%. So I personally am not a fan of survey when it comes to assessing creative quality and media choices. I'm much more trying to get to the behaviors that people are changing after exposing to that execution. So that's why my entire measurement philosophy when it comes to media and creative is around behavioral measurement. And the last point here is that I believe very much in trying to find causality. We're making too many decisions based on correlations, and we all know that correlation is not causality. And the only way you can have a causal relationship if you run an A/B test, a randomized control test, and there's no other option. So yes, you will make some decisions based on correlations, you will make some hypotheses, but if you really want the goal through, try to always aim for causality.
So you question attitudinal measures, but are you, Sorin, like a post-attitudinal behavioral engineer lost in the marketing space?
I don't think I'm lost. I hope so. At least I don't feel like I'm lost. But no, I mean, I've read a lot of academic papers that told me that we are subject to a lot of biases. I mean, those of you who have read anything around behavioral sciences are clear that we as humans, as people, we are not really crafted to basically answer logically what we really feel. So trying to get through different kind of research methods to the behavior, to the feeling, I mean, I'm expanding here to ethnographic research and all kind of things, will get you better, in a better state than asking a survey over a mobile phone. Am I controversial here?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think I wanted to, maybe because we're almost out of time, I wanted to ask you about Byron Sharp and Peter Fader, because Byron Sharp, obviously, you refer to him in his famous book, How Brands Grow, insists a lot on the value of availability, mental, physical, on the value of acquiring new to brands, like Laetitia said in the beginning, on growing the reach, really, and he dismisses, let's put it that way,
100%.
Loyalty. But what we saw this morning also with Laetitia is that it's very important, loyalty as well, and it can be impacted. So how do you solve this contradiction?
So I'm a very curious person, and I was very, very, very lucky to have been trained by both of these amazing people. I've done an executive education at Wharton with Pete, and also I've been brainwashed at Mars with Byron Sharp. And what I learned from both of them is that we're always trying to find the solution, while in fact your brand, your company, has to play somewhere between the spectrum of these two ideas. Selling walkers or Lays, it's very different than selling the Hoxton hotel that I stayed last night. So it really depends on the category that you're playing, understanding that category and the drivers of that category, understanding the reasons why people buy into that category will make you adapt your strategies and not go to the extremes. I find that especially Byron goes to the extreme to make a point, and I think he does it very well. But I think the reality, the non-academic practitioner reality, is somewhere in the middle. So at Mars, we've balanced both of them, very much skewed towards reach-based planning, but in the from snacking in the chocolate categories, but in pet care, for example, where they had large veterinary services practices, hospitals, and services organization. The need to build a customer lifetime value, and the tools that we were using there were very much from the thinking of Pete Fader.
If I may, sorry to challenge a little bit what you're saying, I think also when Byron Sharp wrote his great book, there was no clean room, no retailer clean room, and therefore you could not really measure the loyalty in the CPG space. We can do it now. We can measure CLV in the CPG space. And what we see is consumers are not created equal in the CPG space regarding how much they buy and shop from a specific brand. So and we also see that by targeting them, by avoiding the people who have zero likelihood to purchase or who already purchase 100% of the time, by focusing on those movable middles, we can actually improve somehow a little bit and measure the loyalty. But happy to discuss that.
I mean, I agree with you, but inside large organizations, the amount of time that you can get from a senior leader is very small. And the beauty of the approach from Byron Sharp is that it's very pointed and very easy to explain. And it's simple to execute by mass media and YouTube and so on. So I think that's where he basically won a little bit. We need to find a way to simplify the complexity of
Agreed. 100%. Do we have questions in the room? It's time for questions, otherwise we're in the red. Yes, Ramla. Thank you, Morgan, so much.
Thank you, Sorin, for all those explanations. Just talking about myths, there are 3 myths that I have read in the book that I want your opinion on, Sorin. First one is brand love. Second one, you touch a little bit on it, which is brand tracking and your beliefs when it comes to brand tracking. And the third point is this one, the customer centricity versus the growth. Because from the book, we understand that you believe in growth more than you believe in customer centricity. At least that was my reading.
Yes. So the question is, if I believe in brand love, or
I know your opinion, but so when I read it,
I
wanted to know. I know that you're not a strong believer.
So I mean, first of all, my opinion doesn't matter. I think that
come on, Sorin.
Each one of us can make their informed opinions about how to manage their brands. I think there is something about brand fame that I would love to understand a little bit more, because there is something about those brands that were built years ago, like the Pepsi of this world, the Walkers, the Snickers, and so on. Those brands were not built in the last 5 years with retail media. Those were built with traditional TV, let's say. And I think we are today in a world in which we are struggling to build those kind of billion-dollar brands with digital. So how do you build fame with retail media would be something I would be really interested to research going forward. So it's not that I don't believe in brand love. I believe that some brands like toilet paper you have a lower relationship with that brand than you have with your Apple computer. But I believe that brands should try to become famous.
That's a nice way to conclude this morning. Thank you, everyone. And
thank you.
Thank you.